to take care of us through this time, the government and whatnot. So it's just called Count on Me, and I'll just offer up a little bit, and we can move along. I'd like to introduce Marc. I don't see Fateh yet, but he'll be along. So count on me. Count on me through thick and thin, a friendship that will never end. When you are weak, I will be strong, helping you to carry on. Call on me, I will be there. Don't be afraid. Please believe me when I say, count on. You can count on me. And that's just all I'll do. Just know that people are there for you through thick and thin. So who I wanted to have on as a guest today is no stranger to the arts world, and specifically film. His name is Mr. Marc Almon, and I'll just give a few, I guess, background things about for Marc's background. He's a filmmaker and television producer and an arts advocate, and he was named one of the next Gen 20 young stars on the rise in Canada by The Hollywood Reporter. He's an amazing man and had invited me to be on the board of previously named the Link Art Center. And I think we have a new name, Lighthouse Art Center. Marc, you can correct me. And I'd like to turn it over to you to introduce a little bit more of your background, especially in terms of the arts.
Thank you, Tara. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here, and lovely hearing you sing. I can see the value in having these gatherings, and for us to come together and talk about what we're going through right now, which is a lot. This past week has been really hard for us in Nova Scotia. And of course, this crisis that the whole world is facing is taxing all of us. But it's also an opportunity not only to reflect on what we're feeling right now and going through right now, but also to talk about the future, and for us to really visualize what that future could look like, and how it can be a more creative and compassionate society, that we can play a part in building that society. And frankly, we have to move quickly. There's a lot of things that are wrong with our world, and so I believe the arts serve as a beacon for us, and it's an opportunity for us to show the way things could be, and to provide leadership, and to encourage others to think of people outside of themselves, and to see how they can fit into this hope for this better world that can emerge from this time of crisis and time of reflection. So I guess maybe to tell a little more about my background, I'm a film producer and an arts advocate. I kind of got an arts advocacy in a surprising manner. I've always felt very strongly about stepping up and being a part of the community, and helping in organizing, others, and finding ways in which we can be stronger together. I was chair of the Atlantic Filmmakers Cooperative in the past, and I helped organize a filmmaking society at King's College in my early days that played a crucial role in developing my skills, not only as a film producer, but also as sort of a community organizer. And then in 2014, I became chair of what would become Screen Nova Scotia, an organization I co-founded with a number of other concerned filmmakers. At that time, we were getting intelligence that the province was considering making changes to the tax credit program, which sort of provided the underpinning for the film industry in Nova Scotia. And since the film industry is such an important part of the creative economy, it really is a foundational tool for supporting our creative economy. And in 2015, those fears proved to be well-founded, and the government attempted to cut funding to the film tax credit, and they also shut down Film and Creative Industries Nova Scotia, which is a Crown corporation designed to be an advocate for and to provide support for not just the film industry, but as well the wider creative community in Nova Scotia. And really what happened at that moment was, in that time frame, which was exactly 5 years ago, was that we saw the power of our community coming together and resisting these changes and saying to government, no, you've not sufficiently consulted us, and this will be devastating to us. You have to reconsider your plans. And what happened in that circumstance, I think we should all take some pride in, for those of us who participated, was that a majority government that was in the midst of making some very tough decisions regarding their budget, did agree to sit down and work out a compromise with us. And the end result was the Nova Scotia Film and Television Production Incentive Fund and the Digital Media Tax Credit, which saved hundreds and hundreds of media jobs in Nova Scotia, and really allowed for us to survive. Now, the film industry since that time period has struggled, because when you make major changes like that to these programs, that can send a signal to the wider world that this is not a stable place to do business. And so a lot of people have been working very hard to rebuild that confidence here. And one of the things that I found myself in a position to do was to work with some partners in developing a new creative hub in the former World Trade and Convention Center. The name of the company that I founded with my partner Rob Power is CultureLink CIC. It's one of the very first community interest companies ever established in Canada. And what that means is that we're dedicated to the community, and that 60% of our profits have to go back to the community. And that also we have to, our assets remain basically with the community forever and ever. And we founded as well, in collaboration with Tara and a number of other key figures in the arts community, a nonprofit organization that worked as a direct partner in what we were trying to do. And we were successful collectively in raising $14 million to convert the World Trade and Convention Center into a creative hub. We've completed phase 1 of the project, which is a television studio. That will be the new home of This Hour's 20 Minutes. And when, they'll be using it for about 7 months of the year. And then we intend for the rest of the year for it to be made available to independent film productions. And so we'll talk a little more about that later if people have interest. And then phase 2 of the project, which we'll be starting construction on later this summer, God willing, includes a performance hall, a cinema, a dance studio, a lobby bar, and office space for cultural nonprofits and for-profit startups in the creative sector. So I feel like I've been really blessed to be part of these efforts to respond to threats to our creative community, and also for us to be stepping forward and saying, no, like we can move past these challenges, and we can find ways to thrive again by working together. And that's very much my mission, my personal mission, is to empower storytellers and change makers to find ways in which we can work together to create a better world for creators and artists. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you, Marc. Appreciate that. So we're in a few minutes, we're going to break off into groups and have about 7 minutes each just to talk about some grounding personal experience, times in your life. And so I based this talk on an article, and we can share the link later. I'm not sure if people got the link. And it was basically a couple of quotes from it was, artists are getting us through COVID-19 and never question their value again. So one of the main things I want to get to is, what do we think about, post-COVID, where the arts are taking us, and then like the value of creatives and artists and whatnot. And so she also says this lockdown should be a wake-up call to all of us who are leaning on creatives now. Arts and cultures needs to be an unwavering national priority, and which is very true. So I'd like to just, if maybe Greg, if you could put in a question for us in the chat. Tell us about a time when you stepped up because you believed in the value of the arts. What happened, given how the arts have been so important for healing, for connection, for those kinds of things? during this time. What is your wildest dream for post-COVID-19?
My apologies. It was all the dialogue
No
from
worries.
folks, and it was covering up the mute button.
No. So
I was, yeah,
maybe
sorry.
some reflection.
Yeah, thank you very much. I have to say this is my first time participating in one of these How We Thrive, dialogues, the narrative project, and I just find it utterly fascinating and such a neat opportunity to go. I also never done this breakout room arrangement, so neat to be able to actually interact with just a handful of people and get to know them in that short period of time, and and discuss some really weighty topics. What I took away from the dialogue that we had was that I think we're missing catharsis in our lives, and that a lot of people in our society are struggling with to grapple with emotions, and also with the concept of death, which is really something we just could keep on running away from, and particularly the issue about emotions. I think because that creates a really small space in which for people to process their emotions about their life and their sort of position, it leads to a lot of there's a lack of dialogue, and as we see, like with this terrible murder that the series of murders that happened this past weekend, when people don't talk about their emotions, it can lead to some really terrible things. And in fact, a lot of times people end up expressing anger in place of other emotions, and that's really a dangerous situation. So art has the opportunity to provide catharsis for people, and so that's really important for us to find ways to help elevate art as a form of therapy. I think we also need to reassert local control. So one of the things we talked about was a virtual kitchen party and how successful that has been as a platform. And so one of the real problems we're facing is this consolidation of power at a global level and also at a national level. So in the case of a global level, we have Facebook and Netflix and Google that are really kind of dominating everything, and we're having this highly polished products, but it creates a lot less space for local expression and local opportunities. So we need to figure out a way to try and champion local creators and to help nurture their careers in a way that doesn't leave us reliant on these huge multinational corporations. And then the last thing I found really intriguing was the idea of a basic guaranteed income as being this great equalizer's opportunity to allow for artists to have some income coming in as they establish their careers. But more importantly, it also provides support for everybody, and maybe would allow people to start thinking more creatively and expressing themselves more creatively and appreciating the arts, and the importance of the arts, because they wouldn't be so they'd be in just a much more secure place. So that's my takeaways from the conversations.
That's amazing. Thank you, Marc, so much. Is there anybody else? We have a bit of time there. Wouldn't mind talking about the fun, and I think someone else has mentioned Dawn France, the living wage. I'm really interested in that because that one of the things that I was reflecting upon is the fact that the CR or CERB, who it's available to now in the gig economy, Dalvina had brought that up, Bernard, and it would be interesting to see something like that be continued, for folks that are part of the gig economy to have this kind of living wage. So maybe if either, I think it was Ariella or Dawn, could maybe elaborate a little bit on those living wages.
Hi, it's Ariella. There's there's a lot of groups and movement and discussion across Canada around guaranteed livable wage or livable income. I just finished a documentary film where Senator Kim Pate was part of it, and she's one of the senators who's put that at the front of her agenda. Certainly, people could connect with her. I think this time has been fostering more communication about that because of the emergency benefits from the government. And I think seeing as artists, I think having an income that's not always directly tied to a project or an output, having time to think about ideas and not just like quickly follow them. I think it also, I'm hoping we'll have, I think we're all reflecting on that, and that there's something that's really beneficial to that as artists, apart from, the importance of that for general population, and citizenship and democracy to work. I think as a filmmaker, I think I'm hoping that this whole time of slowing down and being able to not just have to chase ideas and follow people around will actually change the what we're consuming on television or the internet, sort of pushing us away from more of a reality TV style of consumeristic, shallow, wanting to just follow people and see the extremes of what's happening, to sort of a more slowed down, thoughtful, philosophical, investigative, ideas based, output. And that's what I'm hoping for. And it's all kind of tied to me, income and how what we have to follow to get that income.
Wow, thank you so much for that, Ariella. And I think Kevin, where is it? Has a huge amount. Oh, Mark, I cannot pronounce your last name. I know it's the same as Susan's. Are you guys brother, sister, husband, wife? What's going on there? Same last name.
There's a story there.
What's the story?
It's not mine to tell.
Would you like to share that? I don't know what that seems interesting to you. Unconditional basic income. Is he there? Mark, are you there? Can you hear us?
Yeah, well, the idea of unconditional basic income, that's been kind of evolving slowly over the years, but suddenly, just over the last few months, I think it's become much more prominent just because of the catastrophe we're in, where it's a good idea that somehow becomes more obviously good at this point. And I think one of the best ways to think about it is not so much that it's like charity or helping the poor, but that it's raising the water level for all boats and not just the millionaire yachts. And that our society actually is producing a lot of thrivability, a lot of resources and goodness. It's just not evenly distributed. And this is simply an easy way to make it more available so that everyone, it's like we don't think about paying for going to grammar school. And so it's the same idea, just a little bit more. And so everyone has a better starting point. And then they can, of course, do creative stuff. And we know that people do creative stuff even in spite of being poor. And this enables that more, and also enables people to stay at home, take care of the children if they need be. And then also to supplement that with work and make more income on top of that, but at least have the security that, in the ups and downs, there'll be a kind of basic level that lets them survive and then be creative on top of that. So.
That's amazing. Thanks so much, Mark. And I just saw that Duncan put in something about the basic income. If folks want to tune into that, I'll be interested in that as well. Let me see here. Oh, it's on YouTube. Okay, so it's on YouTube. So yeah, so just piggybacking and taking it back to the arts overall, yeah, I believe it is definitely going to change. Post-COVID, things are going to change. There's no two ways about it, especially with the income and how the government is going to looking at supporting through the grants. So I also saw through the Canada Council that they have a new grant for helping organizations take their organizations digitally. So they're seeing it, they have no choice but to see it. It's right there in front of your face, the way that we're having to live and be and create and art, nowadays. So are there any other final words before we move into next week? Final reflections? No. Well, thank you, everybody. You've been amazing. I hope that you've been inspired with this talk. And I just wanted to quickly mention, if anybody else wants to add in, that, let's see, Jason, I'm not sure if Jason's the host of that one, I think so, but we're going to be talking about our relationship to food. So a few times on our calls, I've been talking about my family, my cousin who lives next door to me and actually has a farm, and we've been bartering. You know, I make natural products, so I've been giving her shampoo, she's been giving me eggs, and it's been quite amazing. And then our cousin lives in the back by the lake, so we've all been talking about, well, she already has a farm, so he and I were talking about planting, building a greenhouse, and I'm planting strawberries and sugar peas and all this thing. So just talking about where our food has taken us, and because every time I go out for supplies, it's still jam-packed at the stores and whatnot, and it just makes me wonder, you know, like we're all running to these stores, like we have to find other ways to feed ourselves. So yeah, that's what we'll be talking about next week. And Susan, feel free to jump in if you want to add anything.
I'll just add one thing, Tara. I think it's in 2 weeks. I don't have the May.
Don't worry, folks.
May.
Stay tuned. You'll catch the information as it comes in.
Exactly.
We can probably finish up early, then we're pretty much done. But thank you so much to everybody. Thank you so much. And just any kind of art that you intake, just love on it and love on those creatives. And I'm attending on Facebook a concert by Kim's niece and Delvina Bernard's daughter. I think all their girls are performing. It's this Sunday, so if you want to pop onto Facebook and check that out, they're doing a live concert online.